What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the FantasyHolics podcast. This week, we're without the host, the guy behind the scenes, the guy pulling all the strings, Josh Rodriguez. We're going to do our best to fill in and not disappoint him this week. Here, as always, I'm Bo, Brant, Patrick. Boys, we're 24 hours away from football as we're recording this. It's exciting times.
It's just about that time. It's tomorrow night. I'll be sitting in front of the TV with a little spread of food, just an appetizer spread for us fat boys, and ready to go.
Christmas Eve and Josh is wrapping those presents last second. Like, always got to get everything ready for tomorrow. Oh, can't wait.
That's understandable. I for sure thought about calling off of work tomorrow just to, sit at home, set the mood, make it feel like a Sunday, right? But Sunday will be here just before we know it. We're coming up on that. And there's a slate of very good games this week for week one. The NFL did us right when they put this schedule out. Brant, what are you looking forward to?
I'm actually looking forward to your game. The Panthers and the Falcons. Over-under set at 39.5 points, so not very much for beginning week. But last three games have been over 40 points. They've split the last three season series between the two teams. And there's going to be a lot of young blood out there on the field. You got Bijan, you got Pitts, you got London. You got to see what Ritter's going to have on one side of the ball. Then on the other side of the ball, you get to see what are they going to do with Miles Sanders. What are you going to see from Young and Mingo? What are you going to see from that Carolina team at all? And they're going to get to open it up against what should be a very well improved defense there in Atlanta too. So it'll be an interesting game to watch.
Okay, Brant, I'll have my eye on that one. That's one that I will be watching come Sunday. The game I'm excited about this weekend, I feel like myself and a bunch of other geriatric people would be very excited about, because if you think back to like the early days of the NFL, the teams that were always on, the Steelers, the 49ers winning Super Bowls all the time, they play each other this week. It's a low-scoring game, Patrick, so maybe not one you're super interested in. Over-under set at 40 points, 40.5 right now. So it'll be a defensive slugfest, but both these teams have very good defenses. The Steelers are 2.5-point underdogs, so it's supposed to be this is going to be a good game. And what I'm looking for here, Brant and Patrick, is that what does CMC's role look like? The coach speak this week was, we don't want to see him get injured. We're gonna pull him off the field a little bit here and there. And then, is Mr. Irrelevant finally relevant? Is Brock Purdy the guy? Is he going to come in and be the answer all year this year? Obviously, the last quarterback taken in the draft last year faces off the first quarterback drafted last year. And I'm interested to see if Kenny Pickett takes that next step forward. The Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is much improved. Deontay Johnson, a lot of us expect to bounce back for, and George Pickens, I want to see take the next step forward as well. So I'm excited for this game, fellas.
Yeah, it's one of those, like you said, NFL classic. You expect grainy footage, muddy field, and it's going to a nitty-gritty 17-13 game. And yeah, it's going to be just running the ball, good defense. It's going to be an instant one of those classics that could be replayed for years and years.
Let's move right along here. We're going to get into some studs and some duds that we're looking at for this weekend. Some guys that we expect to outperform their PPR expectations, guys to underperform potentially. Josh was originally doing the quarterback, Brant. I know you picked up a stud. And Patrick, if you didn't come up with a dud, I got one on the fly. It's up to you, boys. You let me know.
I'll kick it off with the stud. My stud's GENO Smith. Call me a homer all you want, but
you're a homer.
He plays against the Rams. The Rams have lost so much their defense. I mean, they lost Ramsey, Leonard Floyd, Bobby Wagner, Tyler Rapp. They lost so much of that defense. What's left? Aaron Darnold. Can you name me another defensive player on that team right now? GENO should get to see what his weapons are really worth. It sounds like JSN is going to suit up. I know I talked about it last week, how I'm not looking forward to his best games starting this week, but it should be a pretty good game. It always is a good game when them two get together. And last year, Geno went 28 for 39, 367 yards, three touchdowns, 1 interception in the first game. He had a little setback in the second one where he went 19 of 31, 213, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. But I expect him to get off to a quick and fast start against the Rams and really set that tone for that division.
Okay, absolutely. Patrick, you got a dud for us at the quarterback position, or?
Man, my poor dud is from the same game. It's got to be Matthew Stafford. I mean, what a career trajectory he's had. He's had miserable years at the Lions, playing amazing football. He gets to a Super Bowl, he wins it, and then overnight, I mean, holy crap, the Rams they're on the clock for 2024. It's going to be that bad, that fast. There's no Cooper Kupp. He's going to be throwing to Van Jefferson and Puka Nacua, who looks awesome. It's not going to be enough to. I feel bad for him just running into the teeth of the Seahawks and the 49ers, and that's a tough division. And Matthew Stafford is going to be a dud. He is the dud of the week in my eyes.
Listen, Patrick, I know you weren't there for this, but Brant, when we did some of our surprises of the season and things that we thought were possible, if you remember right, I came out and said Cooper Kupp, I was expecting to not have a great year, and I came out and said the injury concerns, but I also said I wasn't sure how I felt about Stafford, and I wasn't sure I trusted Sean McVay to put his best foot and his best team out every week. That got turned into a short, and I caught some pretty good hate for that on a lot of the FantasyHolics stuff for my Rams take, talking about how Sean McVay is a Super Bowl champ coach. He's going to do the right thing, all this, that, and the other. But here we are, and it's may not be that crazy. We may be heading into a world where another guy who was a young whippersnapper, if you will, in the Steelers and 49ers prime, Stetson Bennett, is under center for the Los Angeles Rams this year.
Yeah, it sounds like that short may have come quickly and fast in no time.
Now, listen, I want to say I wasn't necessarily rooting for a Cooper Kupp injury by any stretch. It just happened that way.
If anything, I was really hoping for a Stafford rally. A Kupp healthy, Akers playing well, HIGBEE playing well, Nacua looking good. Like maybe the defense, maybe you want to see Aaron Donald go out on top. Just they're a good team. You want to cheer for Stafford. You want to cheer for those guys. It kind of hurts to see them in this place. Just there's no way that this team has a 500 season. It would be Sean McVay gets coach of the year if they're 500 rated. It'd be incredible.
That's fair. Let me ask you this. Regardless of what happens this season, now that he got his Super Bowl ring, is Matthew Stafford a Hall of Fame quarterback without question in your eyes?
It feels like the Hall of Fame bar is getting lowered and lowered and lowered. Without the stats off the top of my head, I think he's not a first ballot, but he belongs, I feel.
Okay. Brant, what do you think about Stafford's chances of getting in the Hall?
He supported 2 of the best wide receiver seasons in NFL history. I think he does make the Hall of Fame. And it's like Patrick said, the bar is kind of getting set a little lower and lower to get in. I think Stafford deserves to be in there, and I think he'll make his way there.
I mean, for me, it's easy to make jokes and take shots at a guy like Matthew Stafford, but he did make a lot of people fall in love with and overdraft guys like Kenny Golladay just because of how good he made them look.
You dirtbag.
Eric Ebron. Oh my God.
Eric Ebron, that's another one.
Look like Travis Kelce for a time.
Yeah. And then you had the piddly names like Megatron and Cooper Kupp and those guys that we won't talk about ever again, I'm sure, in football. All right, so boys, I had the pleasure of coming at you guys with running backs this week, and I kind of feel like I took the easy way out here, but I feel good about it. For my stud, I have 2 guys, and they're in the same backfield. I've got Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. Both of them are projected under 14 points in full point PPR. I expect both of them to shatter that this week. They're playing the Arizona Cardinals defense, which, Brant, you just talked about how barren the cupboard was in Los Angeles. This may be the only place that's worse.
The cupboard got ripped out of the kitchen in there.
Yes, it's a full demo. There's nothing left. Nobody's home. It's Will Smith from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air standing in the living room going, "Where is everybody?" Right? In my opinion, the best player aside from Budda Baker that was still there was Simmons, who they traded to Josh Rodriguez's Giants for basically free, a 7th-round pick.
Rodolfo Fred.
Correct. So for me, I expect this game to be one where Riverboat Ron and the Washington Commanders take it easy on Sam Howell in his second career start. I expect them to have a lot of volume to the running back position, whether that be Brian Robinson just punching it up the gut over and over and over again, or dump screens to Antonio Gibson. I expect these running backs to just rip off chunk yards all day. This is going to be a really, really ugly football game if you're an Arizona Cardinal fan. It did sound like today they named Joshua Dobbs the starter. So that means it'll probably be an ugly day for the offensive side of the ball in Arizona as well. It is what it is, fellas. We can't control that, right? And controversial take here from my dud. Brant, this will be no surprise to you. You've been listening to me talk about this all offseason on the Fat Boy Show. Dameon Pierce is my dud this week. It's pretty simple for me. The offense in Houston, I think, is going to take some time to get going. CJ Stroud looked rough in the preseason, and they're playing the Baltimore Ravens, which is honestly every year it seems to be this way, but they are one of the more talented defenses in the National Football League. And if you just look at their linebacking core, you've got Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith. That's really tough when you're an opposing running back. He's projected 11.6 points this week. I think they're going to play from behind, which that puts Devin Singletary on the field more in my eyes than Dameon Pierce. As we all know, Dameon Pierce hasn't shown anything to this point of being a pass catcher, and I've been wrong before. I am not a fan of Dameon Pierce this week.
I'm on the same side as you. I'm not a fan of Pierce at all this season, so absolutely.
Well, me neither. Patrick, what do you think? Dameon Pierce, are you on board or are you off board?
Or that whole Texans offense it's a yikes. It's a flex at best. It's CJ Stroud gets into the league and the NFL says, here's the Baltimore Ravens. Like, oh my God, that's a cringe-worthy start if I've seen one.
Sure.
Bryce Young gets an easier matchup with Atlanta, I guess. Anthony Richardson's going to have a better day. Stroud is going to be. They might rest him just in the fourth, but just put an end to it. I would, if I could avoid a Texan this week, I really would.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be it could be a very low scoring game on both sides, but any Texans. No thanks if I can avoid it.
All right, Patrick, you got wide receivers this week. Take us through your studs and duds.
My stud receiver this week is got to be Keenan Allen. He's got Kellen Moore, new offensive coordinator, against a really, really bad Dolphins secondary. They added Jalen Ramsey. He's been questionable / banged up all year. The Dolphins secondary was really, really, really bad last year. In Capio this year, they replaced a defensive coordinator. It's early, though. I don't know if the Dolphins defense will recover that quickly. And Kellen Moore's passing offenses in Dallas have been top 5, top 10 across the board. And this is probably a better offense. I would argue Justin Herbert's better than Dak. It's debatable on Keenan Allen, as good or better than CeeDee Lamb. I think Allen is going to feast in a game, like I said. There's going to be minimal defense. I think Kellen Moore may be making a statement game. Chargers looking out to get to a good start. I really like Allen. At least 10 catches. A score would be nice. I think it's going to be a wheels up statement game, set the tone for the rest of the season, and I really like Keenan Allen this week.
Okay. I have no disagreements here. And as a matter of fact, without giving too much away, I will talk about Keenan Allen a little bit later in another segment in this episode.
Oh, great. I guess we both will.
Perfect. So you get no arguments here, Patrick.
Might get roasted for this one. I think the dud this week is CeeDee Lamb. Now, not saying a dud like bench him. No. You're starting him. He's a flex at worst. We've never seen CeeDee Lamb without the aforementioned Kellen Moore. What does that offense look like? There's no Zeke. There's no Kellen Moore. They brought in Brian Schottenheimer, whose offensive track record is average. I mean, he's had uninspiring years with the Jets, the Rams, the Seahawks. I didn't really see anything that stood out like, hey, the Cowboys offense will not skip a beat. The Cowboys offense will continue to be what it's been. Like I said, everything we've seen with CeeDee Lamb has been tied to a high-powered, passing-friendly Kellen Moore offense. Maybe week one, I would temper my expectations, but week one dud, I think it might be CeeDee Lamb. The Giants defense is pretty good. Giants at home. Again, they're going to look to set the tone, like say, hey, we're not going to be pushed around. We're a good team, and the Giants could, focus on Lamb specifically. They don't have Zeke. They might focus on Brandon Cooks, but they might focus to shut down Lamb. I would lower my expectations week one, and hopefully if you drafted Lamb early, he has a good year for you, but all bets are off this week until we see what this Cowboys offense can really do.
Okay. I'll tell you one person I know that would love to start CeeDee Lamb, and that's Brian Dable of the New York Giants. He would kill for a guy like that, I'm sure. Brant, any quarrels or qualms with CeeDee Lamb?
No, I like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head. Temper expectations on him.
Absolutely. I think well said, Pat. That's definitely one that, hey, people may fall on their face with him this week, and that's all right. You drafted him early, you got to play him, right? But we'll see. Brant, tight ends. Let's hear it.
Tight ends. I'm going back to the Seattle Rams game for my stud, and that's Tyler HIGBEE. I've been looking at him all week with Cooper Kupp banged up, and I think that he's going to be the primary pass catcher there in LA. They're going to have to throw to keep up. He's projected 11.5 points PPR this week. I think he goes above that. I think he falls in the end zone. I think he'll be the red zone target. He's probably the most comfortable person that Stafford has to throw the ball to. So I would expect Tyler HIGBEE to really take off this week. And I think he could end up being talked about in the top 5 tight ends this week. Not for the season, just for this week. So if you're a tight end streamer, this would be a good guy to go get.
All right. And your dud, Brant?
My dud is Pat Freiermuth. He is going against the San Francisco 49ers, who gave up bottom 5 in fantasy points last year to the tight end. That offensive line is new, so they will take some time to gel. I don't know how much time Pickens will have back there, so I wouldn't expect too many good targets, valuable targets for Pat Freiermuth this week. I would expect a lot for Najee, and Jaylen Warren would probably be the best targets that will be seen on that team. So I expect him to struggle out the gate against San Francisco 49ers. It's going to be a rough game for him. I would temper expectations. I know a lot of people are expecting a top 10 season out of him, which I am as well. I just don't know how I feel about it against the San Francisco 49ers.
Pat, what do you think about Pat this week against the Niners?
When we put out our rankings today, I looked at the graphic. I thought, why is Pat Freiermuth not in the top 10? I had to look at, oh, yeah, it's the 49ers. He's not a top 10 this week. Did I do something wrong? No, temper. It'd be great if he did. He's going to have a great year, but that year starts in week 2.
Yeah, we talked about the barren cupboard earlier with the Los Angeles Rams, and then we talk about the non-existent cupboard with the Arizona Cardinals. The San Francisco 49ers is the fine china, what we break out for Thanksgiving dinner, New Year's Eve meals. That's Fred Warner on your tight end. It doesn't look good if you're starting him, right? All right, boys. Let's get into the thing that I was personally most excited for this week. I know we're in a little pride rivalry league here, see who does better each week, but DFS is slowly growing every year. People are, just it takes all the fun of a fantasy football league, right? Which is drafting your players, putting a lineup in, and seeing what happens. But I don't want to be held accountable for that team if they're awful, right? That I had a bad day that draft. That wasn't me, right? So this is the best way to do that. And so we thought, let's put one out every week, right?
Yep.
So Brant, take me through your DFS lineup. Tell me about your price value with each position and just like a real quick of why you picked that player.
So I'm going to start with the running backs. I'll get into the quarterback in a minute when I talk about my stack. My running backs, I got Bijan Robinson against the Carolina Panthers. I expect him to be worked hard this week and really see what he's worth. I got him at about 7,800. I expect him a big week from him. I don't know really what to expect out of Carolina's defense. I do know they have a pretty decent secondary, so they may be using that ground game a lot. And I expect Bijan to feast this week. I could see him getting 1 or 2 touchdowns this week and really showing what he's worth. And then I'm going with the guy that's always faithful and when it comes to fantasy, and that's Aaron Jones. He's going to see the ball a lot. He's going to split it with Dylan, but he might be one of the most trustworthy pass catchers on that Green Bay team to start off with against Chicago. And I expect him to find the end zone a couple times as well. He always does good games against Chicago. So I expect Aaron Jones to take off this week. So now I'm going to talk
about his price point, Brant.
Oh, his price point, 7,200.
Okay.
Now I'm going to talk about my quarterback and my wide receiver. My stack of the week when it comes to Dynasty DFS, I love to do stacks, and that is Derek Carr at 7,000. And I'm going to take so much heat for this one. I went cheap with Michael Thomas. I expect them to be throwing the ball a lot against Tennessee. Tennessee is the worst secondary in football last year, giving up the most fantasy points to wide receivers. I got Michael Thomas at 6,000 for a value pick there. So I did stack them. I ran it back because when I do it, I always like to run it back with the other team too. I took DeAndre Hopkins to run it back. It's at 7,500. I do think he'll struggle a little bit, but I think that he'll find the end zone because Tennessee will have to try to keep up. My other wide receiver, I went with Chris Godwin, 6,800. PPR guy. Minnesota's another defense that kind of struggles as well. They've lost quite a bit. So I expect Chris Godwin to come out and have a really good week 1. And then I went with Tyler HIGBEE at my tight end. I got him at 5,300. I think he blows up this week against Seattle because we can't stop a fart right now. So I expect Tyler HIGBEE to have a very good game. And then I went with Keenan Allen. Like Pat said earlier, I got him at 8,000. And I went with the best defense, I think, this week, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Indianapolis Colts. I expect Anthony Richardson to come out. I do expect him to rush for quite a bit, but I expect him to throw quite a few interceptions in that game too. And it would just be so great if he could run. If they could run 1 or 2 of those back for a touchdown, that definitely would put them in running for the best defense of the week.
Okay, I won't ask your price point on those because I will talk about both of those 2 players / team as well in a minute. So Patrick, go ahead and walk me through your DFS lineup.
Well, Brad had a couple of the ones out of the way. I had Aaron Jones against the Bears. Even though Aaron Rodgers is gone, the Packers probably still going to own the Bears. That defense was atrocious last year. Probably improved a little bit, but in the DFS lineup, you look for those green lights against the worst defenses. I took Aaron Jones and Javonte Williams. Javonte's looked really good. He's playing against the Raiders. Raiders run defense. I don't know if the Raiders defense has been good in 20-something years. So I have Aaron Jones and Javonte Williams. They're going to have big days on the ground. Javonte he looks great. He doesn't have a A.J. Dillon to split carries with, so he's probably going to get a majority of the work. Liked him at 6,500. He's cheaper than Aaron. I thought he was very cheap given his talent, the offense, the situation. And then receivers, again, I had Chris Godwin Chris Godwin and Jordan Addison, that Bucks Minnesota game is so devoid of defense. Oh man, it's gonna be just whatever the Chargers Dolphins game is, just add 10%. Like the Vikings added Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator. I don't know if the personnel is any different. And man, that was one of the worst defenses in NFL history. Even Baker Mayfield going to look adequate. So I took as many receivers as I could in that game. I took Greg Dulcich as my tight end. You aim for those bad defenses. Tight end against the Raiders is a pretty safe bet. Have this odd feeling that Sean Payton wants a Jimmy Graham light kind of guy in his offense, and if that's Dulcich, that's a great spot. Try him out in this game, in this situation. My flex is actually my third receiver is I tied my third receiver to my quarterback on stack Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson, which when I set this lineup, it sounded like a great stack. Washington might be up so big, so early. Sam Howell might throw the ball 14 times, and I hope 7 or 8 of those are to Jahan Dotson, maybe get a score out of that. I think Arizona is going to be just looking all year. Just not break a sweat. I'm not going to get hurt. I don't need to get hurt for this season. That's going to be a cakewalk. And at those values, I still had enough money left for Justin Jefferson at my flex. So no one needs to say that must start in the aforementioned awful defense game down in Tampa. And my defense, I also took Commanders defense because Josh Dobbs played okay in that Titans Jaguars game late last year, but that match may have worn off.
I pretty much don't need to talk about my team at all because between the two of you, you've talked about everybody I got.
We took all the easy matchups, all those green lights.
Chris Godwin, if you own him out there in America, trade him because all three of us are starting him this week, so he'll probably have zeros on the board.
Well, this will be even.
Sell high. He's going to have a monster game.
He should. I will do this a little differently. I will go ahead and start with the quarterback. For quarterback, I took Justin Herbert again in that game that you talked about, Pat. I am also expecting a coming out party with this Kellen Moore offense. Sky's the limit. He's 8,100. Brant, you mentioned this already, but your Seattle Seahawks can't stop a fart. I don't expect them to stop Cam Akers either, 6,600. I think this may be the lone bright spot of the Rams offense on Sunday. I spent up for my boy Bijan Robinson, which you already talked about, Brant. I expect him to be a focal leader of this offense. The highest value dollar-wise that I put on anybody not my quarterback was my stack. It was Keenan Allen. Again, you already talked about all that too. I'm going to skip it. And then I'm going to get into my other two wide receivers that aren't Chris Godwin or Keenan Allen that I feel extremely disrespected that they are this low in dollar amounts. And the first one is Deontay Johnson. And I understand it's the San Francisco 49ers. I understand that we're worried about what Kenny Pickett is. Deontay Johnson's still going to have 12 targets in this game. He may only catch 5 of them, but the opportunity for 12 targets and 10 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown exists for this man. And at $6,400, I could not pass that up. And then the one that was super disrespectful to me, Brant, you brought up Michael Thomas at $6,000. Drake London is only at $6,200. Somebody at FanDuel needs to raise their right hand and slap themselves across the mouth with that because that's just asinine. And then to round it out, I have Greg Dulcich at my tight end as well. I like you said, Pat, I expect him to feast on this Raiders defense. No Jerry Jeudy, more than less likely. Russ is going to need another target opposite of Cortland Sutton in this game. Brant, I know you think it's Marvin Mims. Maybe it is. I'm still expecting Greg Dulcich to have a pretty good game. And Pat, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I also went with the Jacksonville Jaguars defense because I do expect Anthony Richardson to try to force it a little bit. I think he settles in as the season goes. I drafted him in a lot of places this year, so I've got some high expectations. I just think it's a little bit of a slow start and I'm taking the Jacksonville Jaguars at $4,400 there on FanDuel. So we'll see next week. We'll come back Wednesday. Next week, we will have a whole week of football behind us, and somebody will have bragging rights. At this point, not Josh Rodriguez, who was absent this weekend, because he still has not put his lineup in yet. So we'll see if he comes through on that. Otherwise, he's automatically the loser. Maybe he has to wear a dunce cap next Wednesday. I don't know. We'll figure out something. Boys, I've enjoyed it. We got football.
Yeah, we do. It's going to be a slow day at work tomorrow, just trying to get home to it.
I am not aware a button-up kind of pants guy at home, but if I was at this time, the buttons would be undone. I'll be in stretchy pants. I'm too smart for button-up pants. All right, fellas. That does it for this week's episode. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We made it.